And on page 14 is the zoning map. A lot of this area is R4, RM1, and some R3 as well. Again, we recommend approval, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, commissioners? All right, we're going to open it up to public hearing. Would anyone like to speak in favor of Z24 2026? All right, seeing no one, would anyone like to speak against Z24 2026? We're going to exit public hearing, commissioners.
Motion for approval for proposed R3 family residential district is in character with the development pattern that is occurred in the area.
All right, we have a motion for approval, properly made second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Z24 2026 passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the public, I do realize it's warm in here. Our air conditioner is doing the best it can to keep up. It's one of the hottest days of the summer. We do have some extra water bottles. If anyone needs one, just get our attention. We'll get you a bottle of water, and then hopefully it will continue to keep up, and we'll get you out of here. All right, the next case we have is Z25 2026. This is the application of OK Gutierrez with James Davis as the agent on this. This is 1 acre. It's currently zoned R1 single family residential and wishes to go to C5 highway and arterial commercial district. It's a parcel of land on the northern frontage of Tiny Town Road, approximately 440 feet west of Green Acres Drive and Tiny Town Road. It's currently a vacant grassland parcel. It's in the North Clarksville planning area, and the applicant's statement is for a commercial strip mall center. This did require a traffic study. The assessment was received and approved by the street department, and you also have comments from the school system about their capacities, even though it's commercial. And this is also in the design district for the Tiny Town Fort Campbell Gateway sub-district. On page 18 is the aerial view of the property. Page 19 is a zoomed-in view. On page 20 is the future land use map, and you can see corridor commercial is the future land use designation. This is the last parcel before it goes back to suburban neighborhood to the east, and the zoning pretty much lines up. You have a legal non-conforming use to the west. That's an auto body shop, and then suburban single-family homes to the east. This property does have several curb cuts, so TDOT will just work on probably reducing that to 1 or 2, and they'll go through review when it comes to the site plan for this project. Staff does recommend approval. This request is consistent with the goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan. The proposed C5 highway and arterial zoning aligns with the corridor commercial future land use and is in character with the development pattern for this area. I'll be happy to answer any of your questions.
All right, seeing no questions from commissioners, we're going to open up public hearing on Z25 2026. Would anyone like to speak in favor? Come on up, sir. Name and address, please.
James Davis, 2901 Privet Lane, Clarksville. I'm the surveyor, and it fits with what's going on around in that area. I think it would be a good addition to the area. So, any questions for me? Very good.
Thank you, sir.
y'all.
Appreciate it. Would anyone else like to speak in favor of Z25 2026? Seeing no one, would anyone like to speak against Z25 2026? All right, we're going to exit public hearing. Commissioners?
Motion to approve. The proposed C5 highway and arterial zoning request aligns with the corridor commercial future land use designation and is in character with the development pattern for this area.
All right, we have a motion properly made second. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, Z25 2026 passes.
All right, commissioners, next up is Z26 2026. This is on page 22 on your tablets. This is an application of Harris Homes Holding, LLC. This is 2.49 acres, currently zoned AG Agriculture and proposing R5 residential district. It's a parcel of land located at the southeast intersection of Gibbs Lane and Trenton Road, and is a single-family home site currently with several mature trees on site, and the applicant's statement is for townhomes. Department comments: gravity sewer main extension will be required to serve this. Roadway improvements to Gibbs Lane and a traffic assessment for access. Traffic assessment will be required, and access to Gibbs Lane will be the only access for this property. We did receive a traffic assessment for this, stating a level of service E at Trenton Road and Gibbs Lane. School system provided their comments on the capacities of their system in the area. Historic estimates would be 30 units on 2.5 acres. On page 25, you can see the property in question at the south corner of Gibbs Lane. 26 is the zoomed in. 27 is the future land use map, suburban neighborhood. Again, multifamily along major roads and suburban neighborhood is an appropriate transition. And you can see the zoning map on page 28. Staff's recommendation at this time is for disapproval. The request appears to be in agreement with the future land use designation of suburban neighborhood. However, it does not align with the overall goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan as it relates to transportation infrastructure. The comprehensive plan establishes a framework in which land use, transportation, and infrastructure are intended to be coordinated, and this development is supported by the availability of adequate infrastructure. The proposal appears premature given the current capacity limitations in the area of Trenton Road. By access ordinance, the entrance to this site is Gibbs Lane, and Gibbs Lane is a substandard 16-foot wide road adjacent to an area with steep topography and makes improvements such as widening or sidewalks difficult to construct. Additional study or assessment will be necessary to determine the feasibility of those required improvements. I'll answer any additional questions.
Commissioners, any questions before I open it up public hearing? All right, we're going to open up public hearing on Z26, 2026. Would anyone like to speak in favor? Seeing no one, would anyone like to speak against Z26, 2026? We're going to exit public hearing. Commissioners?
Motion for disapproval. Proposal appears premature given the current capacity limitations in the area of Trenton Road, Florida.
Second.
All right, we have a motion for disapproval and properly made second. Any more discussion? All those in favor of disapproval? Any opposed? All right, Z 2026 fails.
All right, Commissioners. Z27, this is not a typical zoning case, but one that came up a while ago, and we're bringing it back. We'll go over the historic zoning here in a little bit. This was an application by the Regional Planning Commission to rezone those properties in question, and it's on your agenda there, all the different parcel numbers from CBD to CBD and H1 historic overlay. So it will not affect the underlying zoning of CBD. They're all going to remain CBD. It'll just establish the H1 overlay as part of this application. It totals 22.8 total acres. That includes the right-of-way in the area as well. And this goes hand in glove with the current updates that we have for the Chapter 9.3 and 9.5 for the downtown urban design overlay and the historic overlay, plus the adopted guidelines we'll get to later in the meeting during other business. The reason for this is as we went through the process of doing the new guidelines for the Common Design Review Board in the Historic District, which now are coming to you for adoption. One of the things I heard when I started here was just how difficult downtown development can be. So what we're attempting here is to reduce the or loosen the belt, that's the term I used yesterday, on the downtown urban design overlay while keeping the H1 overlay at its current level. We're making the process a lot clearer. We have a lot of other items in that, which I'll cover under the ordinance, but it's got three different moving parts. One is to expand the H1. The other is to update the city zoning ordinance to have the new chapter 9.3, 9.5, which have been reviewed by the legal department. We've had a couple lawsuits in the past couple of years regarding downtown and historic properties, and they've noticed some opportunities to tighten that up for any future litigation. And then adoption of the guidelines later today, which the guidelines will guide the future development of downtown and the H1 district. It's actually a separate document. It won't be contained in the ordinance like it is now. It allows the Common Design Review Board to update those easier than bringing an ordinance change every time. And it is the accepted way across the state on how to do guidelines, not adopting them in your ordinance. It's advised that you don't do that. I do have a chart a little later. I'll be happy to answer any questions. I think that might be the better way to go here. We did cover this on Friday at the informal, but there are three moving pieces, and this is one of them. If this gets passed, but the ordinance doesn't get passed, that's not a huge deal. If the ordinance gets passed, but this doesn't get passed, that could be problematic for the historic properties. It would leave them with less protection because that ordinance will reduce the design overlay protections on them. And it's a bunch of moving pieces. So I'll be happy to answer any of your questions. We can see if there's anyone from the public here and continue to discuss this.
Commissioners, any questions for staff? All right, we're going to open this up for public hearing. Z27, 2026. Would anyone like to speak in favor? Come on up, sir. Name and address, please.
Joe Van Duzen, 3214 Quincy Lane. So I like that we're expanding the historical preservation of a particular subset of downtown. It is the heart of Clarksville, and it is very important for future opportunity that we preserve what makes Clarksville unique versus any other place. Placemaking is essential to urban development. It's essential to economic development. It's essential to a successful and thriving city that it can have the tax revenue in order to pay for all the nice things that we would want. So with that, I would like to say thank you for loosening the belt on downtown generally, but then still protecting the historic properties that absolutely need to be preserved in order to provide the baseline for future downtown success. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else like to speak in favor of Z27, 2026? Would anyone like to speak against Z27, 2026? All right, we're going to exit public hearing now, commissioners.
Second.
All right, we have a motion properly made second. All those in favor? Any opposed? Z27, 2026 passes.
All right, thank you for that first step, commissioners. Next up on the agenda is Z01, 2026. So Daniel, if you'll just go back a slide, there we go. So this one covers the ordinance. I've actually printed you all out a copy. It got buried under the other business tab, but you do have a hard copy in front of you. This is the ordinance that will be forwarded to City Council. This repeals current chapters 9.3 and 9.5 and replaces it with the language therein. Again, this really, about half this language is lifted from our current ordinance. It's about the establishment of the historic districts, how the boards operate, how they're nominated to those boards, how they'll handle their business. None of that is changing. That's mostly handled by state law anyway. And we've clarified a lot of the staff rules versus the commission's roles in this. One of the, I think, bigger things that's been complained upon in the past. I'll just read off the slide a little bit for a second. This was initiated back in September 2024 by the Planning Commission at the urging of the Regional Historic Commission. We did receive a $30,000 state grant from the State Historic Commission, and we hired a team of a planner and a historian to help us compile both the guidelines and this ordinance. We had several public meetings during the way, kickoff meetings, meetings at the midterm, and then a meeting when the guidelines were finalized. We invited all the downtown property owners and businesses here. We had a lot of good feedback early on. There was some pushback, I think, when we first got going, but we've kept them apprised of the process all along and explained that not a lot's changing, especially if you're in the H1 overlay. Nothing's going to really change for you. In fact, it only gets better if you're outside the H1 overlay. For instance, the district, and it's in this map here if you don't know the downtown district by heart. About midway there, you'll see this map. That is the established downtown urban design district. That map is not changing. That was amended several years ago when the Vulcan property PUD was coming through to add that property down there. But the map is not changing. But you'll notice the map goes all the way from Red River Street all the way to Two Rivers Mall down to Crossland Avenue as well as the heart of downtown. Well, the way the current guidelines are, we're holding properties on Riverside Drive to the same historic standards that we're holding properties on Franklin Street or Main Street to. So that's one of the things we've differentiated with these guidelines, is that we recognize there's the absolute historic core of our city, which currently, until the last thing you just passed, was Franklin Street, Strawberry Alley, 2nd Street. Those properties were not protected with a historic district. In fact, back in 1974, it was recommended we do this by the state as well, and now we're getting around to it. So it differentiates the type of development. We will still have design standards on Riverside Drive. They just won't be held to the historic rigor that the historic properties from the 18 and early 1900s require. You know, a 1960s office that is brick, painting that might not be a problem. Making alterations, that's not a problem. That's not considered a historic building yet. But doing something to an 1880s building definitely is something the historic board has purview over per local and state regulations. Again, the city legal department's reviewed this to make sure this is legally sound, and we were grateful for their help on this. Major changes, if I didn't cover them already, again, it creates the adoption of the framework, which we'll cover at the end of the meeting. The guidelines will be a clear way forward for development and redevelopment. It loosens the regulations in the downtown urban design while upholding the historic significance. We've made a clear process in what is minor, and by minor I mean can be handled at staff level without having to come to the Common Design Review Board or the Historic Board. It does something that the previous document didn't do, and this was one of our court cases, is what is contributing versus non-contributing. We actually define what a contributing structure is now. We've actually built in an economic appeals process, so that's something we didn't have in the past, but if you go through the process one time and you're denied, you can apply again. There's a whole list of information you have to supply, appraisals and some other things, and you can come back for an economic appeal to a decision by the board. That used to have to go right to court. I think this is a better opportunity to try to handle it at our board first without going to the court system. We've also added some language for demolition by neglect. Unfortunately, the Planning Commission nor the Regional Historic Board has subpoena powers, so they can ask for property owners to come and appear and talk about why their properties are being neglected, but they can't subpoena them to the board. But it is a step in the right direction and allows the code department to assist us with that. And we also updated the certificate of appropriatenesses to follow the state vesting laws. In the past, COAs never expired. Now they follow vesting laws, so 3, 5, 10, or 15 years, depending on the process that you're under building your project. The COAs would hang there with that project. A lot contained in there. Again, it more or less activates the guidelines, which are the big blue documents in front of you, and they're also in your other business, and we'll go over those at the end of the meeting. They'll be happy to answer any questions, and we do need a public hearing on this.
All right, we're going to open up public hearing on Z01 2026. Would anyone like to speak in favor? Come on up, ma'am. Name and address, please.
Louisa Cook, 5 Thayer Lane, Clarksville, Tennessee. I represent the Montgomery County Preservation Coalition, and I just want to thank you all for taking this on. It's way past time. Clarksville is very much behind other places in the country on their preservation and protecting our history and our culture that we have here. So I'm encouraging all of you to please pass this, and again, thank you to the RPC for working on it.
Thank you, ma'am. Would anyone else like to speak in favor of Z01 2026? Would anyone like to speak against Z01 2026? All right, we're going to exit public hearing, commissioners.
Motion for approval that ordinance update also cleans up the legal authority and language contained therein.
All right, we have a motion properly made second. All those in favor? Any opposed? Z01 2026 passes.
Commissioners, I do appreciate that vote. This has been a labor of love and a good long year getting that to the right process, but thank you very much. All right, this time we'll go over to our county cases. So if you'll open up your county zoning tab, we have 2 cases here. The first one is CZ 8 2026. This is the application of Russell Alley and Carlo Roveto. This is 2.57 acres, currently zoned AG agricultural and wishing to go to E1 single family estate district. It's a tract of land along Antioch Church Road, approximately 4,250 feet west of River Road. It's a residential property with 2 residential homes on site and other mature trees. This is in the rural area of the growth plan and the Cumberland South River planning area. The applicant's statement is the requested E1 zoning classification is compatible with the surrounding land uses and promotes orderly growth while preserving open space and rural character of the community. The rezoning will allow the property to be legally divided into 2 conforming residential parcels, improving property maintenance, ownership flexibility, financing opportunities, and long-term investment in the existing homes. As I already mentioned, it has 2 homes on it, so it'll allow them to, it's a lot harder to sell one property with 2 homes than one property with 1 home each. So that's in essence what the applicant's trying to do here. Department comments, Cunningham Utility District said since this will be 2 lots, it will fall under the developer policy of Cunningham Utilities, and they can find their information on the website. No other department comments or concerns, and the school system listed their capacities at their schools serving this. Historical estimates would be 2 units. It currently is 2 units. It just allows them to divide it into 2 parcels. And you can see on page 4 and 5 is the property. Page 6 is the future land use map, and page 7 is the zoning. A lot of green on those maps. The request is consistent with the goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan, and this request is in character with the area and will permit the owner to create a lot for each existing residential home, and we recommend approval.
Seeing no commissioners with questions, so I'll open up public hearing on CZ8 2026. Would anyone like to speak in favor? Come on up, sir. Name and address, please.
Good afternoon. It's Russell Ali, 2412 Antioch Church Road. Basically, Jeffrey said everything, but there's 2 existing homes. It's been that way for 27 years, and so we just want to get divided out and put 2 families in there and make the community better. That's it. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Would anyone else like to speak in favor of CZ8 2026? Would anyone like to speak against CZ8 2026? We're going to exit public hearing. Commissioners?
Motion to approve. This request is in character with this area and will permit the owner to create a lot for each existing residential home.
Second.
All right, we have a motion properly made second. All those in favor? Any opposed? CZ8 2026 passes.
Thank you, Commissioners. And on page 9, it's our last county case today, CZ 9, 2026. Again, this is also a first for the Planning Commission. This was an application initiated last month by the Planning Commission for, I believe it's 12 parcels on Albright Circle and Bagwell Road. And this is an area-wide rezoning of 4.95 acres, taking all of these parcels from C5 Highway and Arterial Commercial to R1 Single Family Residential District. It is 11 parcels of land north of 41A, south and east of Bagwell Road, and surrounding Albright Circle. This is in the urban growth boundary, and it is in the Fredonia Adams planning area. And our applicant statement is to correct the existing non-compliant zoning on these parcels. As you can see, as Daniel's scrolling through these are all existing smaller homes from the 60s and 70s. And this was an area that has historically been zoned C5. So all these houses are considered legal non-conforming. If they were to be destroyed by a natural disaster, a fire, or something like that, they would not be allowed to rebuild because they do not match the zoning. So when an applicant came to us about 2 months ago to rezone one of the parcels, we looked at the area like we do first and said, let's just try to rezone this whole area. It is in the authority of the Planning Commission. I think this is an easy one where we're just bringing all 11 parcels into compliance. The Code Department has said that these will be lots of records, so they do meet the frontage. Even though a couple of them are really skinny, they do allow you to build on them because they've been platted prior to platting rules, but the zoning would still need to be fixed up. In order to start this process, immediately after the Planning Commission meeting last month, we sent a letter to every one of the property owners letting them know what we were going to propose. We did receive 2 phone calls. One was just getting a little more information. Another was a little curious at first. She thought we were going to make sure she couldn't build a shed or something. And after about a half an hour, I talked her out of that, and she was coming around to understand what was going on. We have not received any other phone calls or emails from anyone else there. We actually did post 2 special signs, not our typical zoning signs. It actually had a map on it of the area and talked about area-wide rezoning, and we put it at the entrance to Albright out there so that it was very clear what was going on. Then about 2 weeks later, we sent our typical zoning letters to everyone involved as well as everyone within 100 feet, and still have not heard from anyone out there. So I'm satisfied that I believe we've covered the due process part of that rezoning. We did solicit other department comments and concerns, and there were none listed. The school system's capacities are there. This would allow 2 of the parcels to build that are currently vacant to build single-family homes on there. So the rest, there's 9 existing homes out there right now. So you're not going to see any increase in density unless the other 2 lots do build homes eventually. The proposed impacts would be bringing the existing single-family homes into zoning compliance for their existing use and remove the commercial nonconformity. This is in the suburban neighborhood portion of the future land use map, so it also agrees with that. We do recommend approval, the request being consistent with the overall goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan, and the request aligns with the future land use designation of suburban neighborhood and removes the commercial nonconformity from those existing residences. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Questions? All right, we're going to open up public hearing on CZ 9, 2026. Would anyone like to speak in favor? Would anyone like to speak against CZ 9, 2026? We're going to exit public hearing, Commissioners.
Motion for approval, it removes the commercial nonconformity from the existing residence.
Second.
All right, we have a motion properly made second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
All right, CZ 9, 2026 passes.
All right, that concludes our zoning portion. Commissioners, ask you to open up your subdivision tabs. We do have one variance that we'll have to take care of first, and then we'll go into the consent agenda portion of the agenda. Mr. Parker.
Okay, good afternoon, commissioners and members of the audience. Our first case on the subdivision agenda is case number V5-2026. The applicant is Hannah Price. The property is currently located as 540 and 542 Woodland Drive, currently zoned R1 within the city. The corresponding subdivision case is case number S32-2026. The subdivision variance that's being requested is to allow the residential common access easement shall not exceed 500 feet in length from section 3.210 subsection 2 of the subdivision regulations. The request is for the residential common access easement to be 1,220 feet in length. The next section is the justification that's been provided by the applicant. Moving down to page 5 of your packet, you'll see the aerial overview of the site. The next page is the variance exhibit provided by the applicant. On page 6, they've provided the vertical and horizontal specifications for the private roadway. This does include the request to allow for a 15% grade. Generally speaking, the maximum is 12%, but they are allowed to ask for up to 15%. The following page is a fire truck access specifications that were provided. And I believe if there's any questions about that, we have a member from the fire department to answer those. Additionally, going back to the actual subdivision report, back to page 1, you'll see the staff conclusions and comments. That goes into the very next page. And then the following page has department comments of there were none of any concern. And if there's any questions for the staff, I'll be happy to try and answer those. Thank you, Commissioners.
All right, seeing no one with any questions, we'll open up the public hearing on V5-2026. Would anyone like to speak in favor? Come on up, sir. Name and address, please.
Cal Burchett with McKay Burchett Company, 1545 Madison Street. We're the engineers working on this project, and when we first looked at this, one of the parcels, it's currently 2 parcels. One of them is completely landlocked. So when we started looking at how to develop it and get that parcel some road frontage, we looked at the common access easement to create some road frontage for that. And the parcel has some extreme topography, so we kind of had to wind the road up the hill, and that's why it's so long. Only 10 lots are ever allowed on the common access easement, so that's so there will never ever be able to be any more lots subdivided. This is kind of at the end of a strange dead end, so we worked with the street department and the fire department to come up with the alignment on how to connect to that existing road. And as Mr. Parker presented, work with them on the topography of it and the vertical alignment. But I just request your approval on this and be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, Commissioners? Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Would anyone else like to speak in favor of V5-2026? Oh, sorry. I didn't see you. Commissioner, go ahead. You want me to get him back up here?
Well, yes,
Please, sir.
he was fast.
Come back to the podium.
Just want to kind of verify, I mean, I'll tell you, I do appreciate that you connected it with the existing road and worked with them. But with as steep as this is, I have definite concerns with as steep and as long as it is and it not being a public road. If it's bad weather and a fire truck or an ambulance gets in there, how are they easily going to be able to get back out of there?
So 15% is allowable in the subdivision regulations for this easement because it's 10 lots. 15% is common in TDOT allowance. It's just our subregs are below that for public roadways. I mean, to answer your question, I think that because TDOT and other municipalities allow this, the street department and fire department have approved it. I think that's, the justification for for the roadway.
And if it was a city road, I wouldn't have as much issue with it because we'd have the street department to be able to come in there and plow it if we had another
Right.
winter like we had this past year.
Sure.
But the concern for me is how one gets in there if it's January and there's a fire or a fire or heart attack or anything that's halfway down the road, and those vehicles are then responsible without having another access point to even be able to turn around any sooner.
Sure.
So, all right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think you're good. All right. Anyone else want to speak in favor of V5 2026? Would anyone like to speak against V5 2026? Come on up, sir. All right, one at a time, please. What y'all figure it out? Rock, paper, scissors, or something. All right. There we go. Name and address, please, sir.
Jerry Myers, 568 Haymarket Road, Clarksville. We own the farm bordering this property on the east and south side. And Cal is right, and Commissioner Streetman is correct also. This is quite a hill. Little bitty road, windy, curvy. We got a working farm, and we got equipment going down that road during the planting season, down the harvest season. It's dangerous. I mean, a combine can't even pass a car on that road. It's just a little bit dangerous. The city does scrape the road occasionally, but it's only 10 houses on the road, so it's not very, not all the time. Where they want to put the road in is a bridge. We had to give them a little bit of an easement, and it floods. Debris washes against the bridge, and it's just a tough place to get in right there. So I'm worried about people getting in and out, and it's just a tough place. Also, we've given them a little bit of an easement right there where that road is. We also gave the city an easement to run a sewer through there. I don't know whether they're going to try to connect to the city sewer. The topography there is solid limestone up on top of that hill. If they start blasting, it's going to go down the bluff on us. 2 weeks ago, the sewer blew, shooting sewer all up in the air. The city worked on it all night. I don't know whether they're planning on hooking onto it or not, but that's another concern. But it's a tough deal right there. So I guess that's all I've got. You guys got any questions?
Questions? Thank you, sir. All right, would anybody else like to speak against V5 2026? Come on up, sir. Name and address, please.
Joe Van Duzen, 3214 Quincy Lane. I have to say I'm a little torn on this case because on one hand, the additional common access easement means the residents are the ones that are ended up paying the bill, not the city, for a road that serves 10 people. So on one hand, as far as municipal finances, it results in a more resilient budget by this being a common access easement. However, on the flip side, the residents that end up buying these properties, just for the additional length but beyond the 500 feet to the 1,220, they're looking at in the ballpark of the equivalent maintenance cost just for the road, not the utilities, not anything else like that, just the road, approximately $550 to $700 a year in maintenance, added up over the course of 20, 25 years of a service life for a given road. So I bring this up because Strong Towns always talks about doing the math. So, but I also want to protect people from getting into a situation where they're not looking 20 years in the road, down the road, and their HOA fees go insane in order to be able to maintain this road. So I bring this up just to make it very transparent and aware for y'all to make a decision. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. All right, I have room for one more to speak against V5 2026. Come on up.
We come together. We're the same household.
Only one person can speak. So,
Well,
Come on up. Name and
I'm
address,
Cheryl
please, ma'am.
Travis, and this is Stan Travis, and we live at 517 Woodland Drive, and we're the one that gets all the vehicles in our yard that we had to pull out. As Jerry said, we really have, down there at that end is a mess. And I know it doesn't flood like it did in 2010 all the time, but they couldn't even get out of that area at all. There's no way. They were in there for like at least 5 days, and emergency couldn't get up to them. So we're really concerned about that part. And I mean, like I said, during the winter months, like I said, gravity winds, it comes down to us. My husband has pulled so many people up out of there, and then 1 year that it iced, and the resident at 540 Woodland Drive had to come down, and he spent 2 days coming down there and digging up the ice so he could get out to go to work. And most people have to start with having to park at Idaho Springs and Sugar Tree Drive and have to walk every day. And I mean, and not only the hill that goes up to the Idaho Springs, but the hill that comes down from where they are. Of course, I don't know what they're going to do with the road, if they're going to try to level it or whatever. But that is a mess because the people that lived up there ended up in the ravine. And my next question was, if this is approved, are they going to try to widen Woodland Drive, or what's the deal on that? That's kind of my next question there. And also, we have frequent, to what Jerry said, we have frequent power outages that result in the water department having to come out and pump multiple times a day our sewer station there. And sewer station is right where we live, right across. And sometimes they've had to bring a generator out there and just leave it. And if they're having to do that just for who's there now, you know, if we're adding 10 more houses up there, then we got a big problem. And the stormwater drain off, and all the sewer, when sewer breaks, it comes in my house. I'm definitely opposed to this. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. All right. Mr. Cow, you get an opportunity for a rebuttal if you would like.
Just a couple things. I heard flooding around the bridge. This would actually improve that. We're aware of that flooding and would improve that situation. And as far as the length of the roadway, like I said, this is landlocked now. So in order to subdivide it at all and utilize that land, we need the common access easement. So I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
Any other questions for engineer? Thank you, sir. All right, we're going to exit public hearing now, commissioners.
Make a motion for disapproval based on the steepness and the length of the road.
All right, we have a motion for approval of V5 2026.
Can I have a question?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Mr. Tindall, staff, heartburn otherwise on what's going on with this?
Sure, I'll call your attention back to page 1 there, and I'll just read the staff's conclusion. The residential common access easement must be maintained by a homeowners association accessing it. The restriction is 3 to 10 lots, and the maximum length is 500 feet, so it's exceeding that. And reduced pavement width were in the regulations intended to allow flexibility of private roads while minimizing the financial burden on the homeowners. An extension would increase the financial burden of the future homeowners and possibly cause delays to emergency services. So that was our conclusions on this. The heartburn again, and I think Mr. Joe Van D said it, is that you've got 10 homeowners maintaining nearly a quarter mile of road. they're responsible for snow removal, ice removal, potholes over the life of it. It is a big burden. I realize these will be expensive lots because they'll be bluff lots overlooking the river. That's why when staff made this, we really cut it off at 500 feet in the city and 750 in the county to kind of maintain an opportunity to build on some property that is difficult. And I have no doubt this is a difficult piece of property, but within reason that it would keep it affordable to the future owners.
We do have a motion for disapproval on the table right now.
I'm a second.
All right, we have a motion and a properly made second for the disapproval of V5 2026. Any more discussion?
I will have one more question, Judge.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
So if David Smith was looking at this as a public road, then all bets would be off on what this design shows, correct?
They'd have to bring that down to, I believe, a 10% grade. Is that correct in the city? The length would not be as much of a problem. Still would exceed cul-de-sac length. Brad's a lot more versed on the subregs, but
Yeah, the maximum length for a cul-de-sac for a right-of-way is 750 feet. I believe this was 1,200 and something.
they would still need a city variance to be in the length, but at least it'd be under city control. The cap of 10 lots would be lifted, but to get that 10% grade would probably be really difficult. If I remember speaking to the engineer, 12% would be difficult, which is the range for, they wouldn't have to get a variance if they were at 12, they would just have to get a length variance, but they brought in 15 for this one as well, which is it is in your authority to approve up to 15, but it does require a special hearing.
No, sir, we're not in public hearing anymore. All right, commissioners, we got a motion and properly made second for disapproval of V5 2026. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Aye. One opposed. V5 2026 fails. Two opposed, I'm sorry. Still passes. The failure passes.
So we'll just Earl. All right, commissioners, we'll continue on with the other subdivisions in this portion of the agenda. So what we'll do for the public here, we're going to build a consent agenda. The staff, commissioners, and you all will have an opportunity to remove specific cases from that agenda for individual consideration. All items in this portion of the agenda may be approved in one motion. However, a member of the audience, commission, or staff may request an item be removed for separate consideration. Mr. Parker, would you please read the subdivisions into the record?
Thank you, Mr. Tyndall. Case number S32 2026, Hannah Price and Stephen C. The request is for preliminary plat approval of Woodland View. Due to the previous variance denial, staff is going to recommend deferral of that application. Case number S34 2026, Chris Blackwell, Reese and Tommy Byard. The request is for preliminary plat approval of Royal Air Subdivision. Staff recommendation is for approval, subject to the conditions listed. Case number S42 2026, Eric and Danny Smithson, request for preliminary plat approval of Smithson Ridge. Staff recommendation is for approval, subject to the conditions listed. Case number S43 2026, MVM Properties. This was previously listed as Gordon C. The request is for preliminary plat approval of the Reserve at Hickory Wild Section 2 cluster. The staff recommendation is for deferral pending additional information. And that's all the subdivisions, commissioners. Staff will pull case number S34 2026. And that's due to some previous discussion. This has been deferred a few times, and so wanted to give the audience a chance to speak to it, but that is Royal Air Subdivision, case number S34.
Commissioners, any plans for you to be pulled? All right. Audience, anyone else need to pull any of these items for additional consideration? Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
This is just
Subdivision.
subdivisions. We'll do the site plans after we get through with the subdivisions. S43, yep. All right. All right, with those two items pulled, anyone else? Then items number 11 will be deferred, item 13 deferred already, and item 14 will be conditional approval. Commissioners, so you're voting on just items 11 and 14 at this time.
Commissioners, consent agenda on items 11 and 14. Any discussion, motion? All right, we have a motion. Properly made second on the two items in the consent agenda under subdivisions. All those in favor? Any opposed? All right, consent agenda on subdivisions passes.
All right, Commissioners, we'll start with S34, 2026. Mr. Parker, if you'll go over the specifics on that. Starts on your iPad on page
22.
22, okay.
Case number S34 2026. Again, the applicant is Chris Blackwell. Subdivision is Royal Air Subdivision Preliminary Plat. It is located at 1911 Old Russellville Pike. It's approximately 10.85 acres. 51 lots are proposed. Current zoning is R2A, and that is within the city. If you'll go to page 25, you'll find the aerial overview of the site. The following is on page 26 is the proposed preliminary plat. I think I've given you the wrong page. Page 22, excuse me. No, I was right the first time. Page 26 is the proposed plan. The following page is an email provided from the street department from the engineer regarding some of the drainage questions. Then the next several pages are emails that have been received from citizens in the vicinity. Going back to the subdivision report, the recommendation is for approval subject to the 3 conditions listed. Those conditions are approval of all utility plans by the city engineer's office, approval from the Clarksville Street Department to include roadway improvements, grading and water quality, and driveway access locations to the public right-of-way. And number 3, to meet CDE requirements per CDE light bands design at full cost to the developer. You can see the department comments listed below, including from the street department, grading and drainage permits, and the CDE comments that are listed. If there's any questions for the staff, I'll be happy to try and answer those.
All right, seeing no commissioners with questions, I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing on S34, 2026. Would anyone like to speak in favor?
Cal McKay Burchant Company Engineers, 1545 Madison Street. Back here again with this one. We've done everything y'all requested as far as we have full permits, state and local, for the entire subdivision. And we'll answer any questions.
Any questions? Thank you, sir. Would anyone else like to speak in favor of S34, 2026? All right, would anyone like to speak against S34, 2026? All right, seeing no one, we're going to exit public hearing, commissioners.
Motion for approval.
Second.
All right, we have a motion for approval, properly made second. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? S34, 2026 passes.
Okay, commissioners, our next case is case number S43, 2026. The applicant is MVM Properties. Again, that was previously listed as Gordon C. Subdivision is the Reserve at Hickory Wild Section 2 cluster. That is a preliminary plat. The property is located east of Dunlop Lane, east of and adjacent to the current terminus of Judge Tyler Drive, and south of and adjacent to the current terminus of Shield Drive. Approximately 61.12 acres, 151 lots are proposed. Current zoning is R1. page 42, you'll see the aerial overview of the property. The following page is the proposed preliminary plat. And then on pages 44 through 96, you'll see public comments and pictures that have been provided. The staff recommendation is for deferral pending submission of additional information. The next section, you can see the department comments listed, including from the County Highway Department implementing traffic calming measures for Lakota, Beretta, Remington, and Tacoma. And if there's any other questions for the staff, I'll be happy to try and answer those. Thank you.
I'll give the commission a few moments to look over some of the attachments there in your packet. All right.
That was the originally approved farming Hickory Wild. If you didn't know it, that's the only part that got built. Like it was originally supposed to be a big master plan before the housing crisis.
All right, we're going to open up the public hearing now on S43 2026. Would anyone like to speak in favor? Come on up, sir. Name and address, please.
Good afternoon, Planning Commissioners. I'm Vernon Weekly, 108 Center Point Drive. We think we have supplied everything that's required of the subdivision regs, and we do realize that the staff is waiting for some information from the County Highway Department that's outside of our control. And so we won't object to a 30-day delay, and be glad to answer any other questions you may have about it.
I don't see any questions now. Maybe later.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. All right, would anyone else like to speak in favor of S43 2026? All right, would anyone like to speak against S43 2026? Come on up, ma'am. Name and address, please.
Hello, my name is Camille Jones, 1162 Buggy Cove. I'm the wife, mom of 3 amazing kids, president of the Hickory Wild Homeowners Association, something I never imagined I'd be saying. But I'm proudly representing 183 families in the original Hickory Wild community, and hundreds of residents in the surrounding communities. We do have an online petition that's reached about 592 signatures after just a couple of days. I also have an additional petition as well for those who don't have social media. As a local realtor, I want to be very clear. I love development and I love Clarksville. Growth is one of the reasons people choose to call Clarksville home, but it must be responsible, transparent, and supported by infrastructure that protects the families. The first pertinent issue I'd like to bring to your attention is a potential property ownership dispute involving land associated with this proposed development. Information recently discovered suggests that a portion of the Hickory Wild Clubhouse property and common area may have been conveyed without proper legal authority. If ownership of that land is in dispute, approving this plat before those issues are resolved could create significant legal complications. Next, I want to provide a little more context. Our neighborhood was created in 2008 with a unique vision and unique access to amenities, clubhouse, fitness center, pool, playground, etc. But since 2008, homeowners have inherited the cost of failed infrastructure, including over $55,000 in alleyways. That is continuing to add up. Thousands more for sidewalks, road repairs, signage, drainage failures, irrigation, pool repairs, and deteriorating community structures. Current repairs exceed $92,000, a cost that should never have become the responsibility of the homeowners, leading to active and ongoing litigation against this specific developer and the management company. Then we have the flooding of 2025. We all know about that. Serious stormwater drainage issues and deficiencies in that basin. This isn't about adding more homes. It's more about whether the proposal adequately addresses the stormwater, traffic, emergency access issues, and the infrastructure issues. We are not asking you to stop growth. We are just asking for some better planning with this situation. As presented, I respectfully ask that you reject the case S43-2026. If this development is to move forward in the future, improvements such as extending that Tacoma Road to Dunlap to provide a second arterial access point, along with the required independent community amenities, maybe some traffic studies should be all seriously considered, along with having clear title to the land that's in question. Please ask the difficult questions. Please protect our communities. And please reject this preliminary plat as it presents. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak against S43-2026? Come on up, please. Name and address, please.
Lacey Sandsburn, 1858 Shield Drive, Clarksville. So as she spoke about the other side of Hickory Wild, I'm on the Wellington Field side. So this is more of Kirkwood Road. The flooding as well. So Hickory Wild was flooded in the front. They they put in gravel so that they could get out, and that put traffic into Wellington Fields. Also, coming out of that, they had to either take a left or a right. The right was down Kirkwood Road, which was a lake. We joke it's Kirkwood Lake because it holds water so often. It's the agriculture there is absent now. Anyway, that was where people had to cross to go to school, and that is the primary exit that people are going to have for Farmington to come around to get to Kirkwood School, whatever you want to call it, elementary, middle, and high, the campus. And then Hickory Wild also, when that was open for the flooding, that was the primary morning route for all of those individuals to get to school. So that road, Kirkwood Road, also, like I said, floods. The other side of that, Dunlop, where the new roundabout is, that was flooded over. So as she said, I agree. We're not asking for you guys to not develop. We understand that that was in the plan. We see the roads there. We see that that is going to be the connection. It is that traffic, people fly through there. We have children that we want to protect. So also adding some traffic speed bumps, I believe, was the request for Farmington. I think that would be a great addition for Wellington Fields, especially with the school, that being the school route. And then lastly, the flooding, of just having some better answers before we start moving dirt. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, we have room for one more to speak against S43-2026. Come on up. Name and address, please.
My name is Michelle Thaxton, 298 John Duke Tyler Boulevard. I'm a resident of Hickory Wild. 7 years ago, I had my home built there, and it's my last. I'll be carried out in a cardboard box home. So it's very important to me that it's maintained well. And I believed all the things that they told me when I was having it built. I was told when it was built, I have a rear-loading garage with an alleyway that was supposed to be a construction road only until the construction was built out, and that when the development, this development was built, It would also have rear-loading garages that would share that alleyway, and it would be made a real road, not just a construction single layer of asphalt. That's apparently changed. Those houses are going to face a different direction now. And my cornfield that I've had, my corn and soy field that I've had for 7 years, alternately, has had I don't know how you can say it, an edge along the field that's just grass and weeds, and every time the trash truck comes, all the trash and everything accumulates in there, mice and all so forth. Well, I understand now, instead of the alleyway and the other complementary rear-loading garages, there's going to be a 30 to 50-foot open space there now. And if he couldn't maintain a 3 to 5 foot space along his cornfield, I can't even imagine what a 30 to 50 foot open space is going to be like if landscaping and maintenance is not required. We have so many problems in that development with drainage. We have our bell tower is sinking. Our playground is uninhabitable. There's our entry monument bricked, it's sinking. The bricks are falling off. There's just no drainage. And a single entry into our community, along with Hickory Reserve, we've only got one way in, one way out. And you're going to be having this development use that same single entry and all the construction roads, trucks, and so forth. We have patches and potholes in that now. My alleyway has been apparently abandoned. We spent $55,000 to have that repaved, negligible, where they put a Band-Aid on it. It's so bad that it was heaving to the point where you couldn't get out. I have no egress. If you look at your map and you see John Duke Tyler, and it butts up to Judge Tyler, there's a stub road that comes out that doesn't connect to anything. 2 lots width for me to be able to turn left out of my driveway to get out and have egress that way. The only way I have out is to turn right out of my garage down that alleyway that was heaving so bad from the thinness of the asphalt and the trash trucks coming by that it alligatored and then it heaved. And with each successive rain and freeze, it's worse. They repaved it with a little Band-Aid layer of asphalt. It's less than 2 years ago. It's already alligatoring and potholing again. It's going to need to be done again. And this is at HOA expense, my expense, and I think that the developer should be required to finish what he started before you give him permission to haphazardly build other developments. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Weekly, would you like to come up and rebut some of the concerns?
Yes. First, I'd like to say this is a completely separate development, and this developer has nothing to do with the old Hickory Wild developer or their clubhouse or any of that stuff. The one unique thing about this subdivision, it does hook all these stub roads you talk about together. And I know back in the spring of 2025 with Dunlop Road going underwater, they were trapped in there, and the county came out and put some gravel down where they could get through the Wellington subdivision to get out. Without that access point, there was no way for ambulances, fire trucks, emergency, just to get out to get food. So hooking the roads together is a big point of this subdivision. It will hook Farmington through Remington Drive. It'll hook Wellington through Shield Drive and hopefully through Judge Duke Taylor Boulevard. And it'll also tie in several other locations along the existing stubs they've left in that subdivision. The stormwater will, of course, be looked at the grading and drainage plan time, and the majority of the water will be going to a basin up there that will be enlarged to take care of the any additional runoff from the subdivision. Traffic calming measures were talked about with the County Highway Department. They chose at the informal meeting that we would design those at the grading and drainage plan. Typically, it's not going to be a speed bump because that it's like you will neck the road down to a narrow spot where cars have to slow down to get through, and those types of traffic calming measures will be used. the county's already been talking about that. Yeah, the open space will be maintained by the new HOA. And it won't be just the edge of a cornfield where a farmer had been farming it. Any other questions that you've got? I don't. Sort of
This
try.
developer is not the developer that did the original picture plot.
That's correct.
And you don't foresee any drainage issues or anything like that? You're going to be able to mitigate anything?
Yeah, everything will be worked through the county highway department for the drainage, and yeah, there's a big basin up there that a lot of the water goes to, and it will be enlarged for the additional drainage. And detention ponds anywhere else that we see that we need at the time of design.
Any other questions, commissioners? After the meeting, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna exit public hearing on S43 2026. Commissioners.
Make a motion to defer.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion for deferral. We have a properly made second. All those in favor? Any opposed? All right, S43 2026 has been deferred for 30 days.
Commissioners, just wanted to fill in one additional piece of information. The county is doing on their own an extensive study of the drainage in the area, so we have submitted this plan, and we hope to get their feedback shortly. So you will have that additional input as well as the highway department's input for next month. All right, commissioners, now we'll go to the site plan portion of your agenda. Similar to the subdivisions, all items in this portion of the agenda may be approved by one motion. However, a member of the audience, commission, or staff may request that an item be removed for separate consideration. Mr. Parker, please read the site plans into the record.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tyndall. Case number SR 45 2026, Chris Blackwell. The development's called 736 Main Villas. The proposed use is multifamily. The staff recommendation is for approval subject to the conditions listed. Case number SR 47 2026. The applicant is Hunter Wynn and others. The development is Northeast Drive Villas. The proposed use is multifamily, and the staff recommendation is for approval subject to the conditions listed. Case number SR 57. The applicant is Nareen Patel. The development is Tim Hortons plus retail. Proposed use is a coffee shop and one retail tenant. Staff recommendation is for approval subject to the conditions listed. Case number SR 60 2026. The applicant is Saul Martinez. The development is Renconcito's Mexican Grill, and the staff recommendation is for approval subject to the conditions listed. Case number SR 61 2026. The applicant is Danelle Welch. The development is Watson Point Townhomes. The staff recommendation is for approval subject to the conditions listed. Case number SR 62 2026. The applicant is Singletary Construction LLC. The development is Walker Farms Final PUD revision. The proposed use is mixed use, and the staff recommendation is for approval subject to the conditions listed. Case number SR 63. The applicant is Singletary Construction LLC. The development's called The Willows at Madison. Proposed use is commercial and multifamily. Staff recommendation is for approval subject to the conditions listed. Case number SR 64 2026. The applicant is Bridge Church of Clarksville. The development is Bridge Church expansion. The proposed use is an expansion of existing church and religious facility. Staff recommendation is for approval subject to the conditions listed. Case number SR 65 2026. Applicant is Billy Ray Suter. The development is Heritage Point Lot 4. Proposed use is surveying and engineering office. Staff recommendation is for approval subject to the conditions listed. And finally, case number SR 66 2026. Applicant is Chris Blackwell. It's 25 Crossland Loss is the name of the development, and the proposed use is multifamily. The recommendation is for approval subject to the conditions listed. I'll point out, the staff would like to remove SR 47 2026 from the consent agenda. That's Northeast Villas. Thank you, Commissioners.
Commissioners, do you need any other items for consideration? All right, audience, we're going to pull SR 47 Northeast Drive Villas for separate consideration. Is anyone here to consider any other of these cases separately? All right, Commissioners, we can hear cases number 21 through number 28 under the consent agenda.
Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
could we pull off 63 as well?
Yes, ma'am.
That's the
SR
right one.
63.
Thank you. Number 25.
You got it.
All right, Commissioners, you have the consent agenda in front of you for site review minus the announced pulled items. Any discussion? Motion?
Motion approved consent agenda.
All right, we have a motion and properly made second on the consent agenda for site reviews. All those in favor? Any opposed? All right, consent agenda passes.
Thank you, Commissioners. Case number SR 47 2026. The applicant is Hunter Winter and all. The name of the site is Northeast Drive Villas. Proposed use is multifamily. The property is located south of Norfield Drive, adjacent to and east of the terminus of Northeast Drive. Number of units is 92 proposed. Current zoning is R4. It is within the city. You'll go to page 30. You'll see the aerial overview of the site. The following 2 pages are the site and landscape plans. The next page is an email received from the street department regarding the drainage and the approved grading plans. And that is, pages 38 through 116 is that drainage report. Beginning on page 117 is the public comments and pictures, and that goes through page 230. The staff recommendation is for approval subject to the 2 conditions listed, those being approval of all grading, drainage, and water quality plans by the city street department to include road and sidewalk improvements as required, and number 2, approval of all utility plans by the city engineer's office or the utility district official. There's a lot of emails and a lot of information in there. The commissioners may need a few minutes, but if there's any questions for the staff, I'll be happy to try and answer those.
All right, we'll give everybody a few minutes to review the attachments. All right, I'm going to go ahead and open up. Well, first off, commissioners, any questions for staff or anything before I open up public hearing? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and open up public hearing on SR 47, 2026. Would anyone like to speak in favor?
Vernon Weekly, 108 Center Point Drive. The staff recommended approval again this month, and we, in between the last month's approval, y'all requested to get the grade and drainage plans approved, and we accomplished that. And so today I'm asking for your vote for approval of this case. Be glad to answer any questions.
Can you go over the drainage a little bit with us, or do you, I know you're limited to 3 minutes this round, or can we, you want to come up after everybody speaks and things, and then, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, it's sort of like every time for the last 4 months I've talked, we're putting a retention basin in the northeast corner up there that will take care of the majority of the flow of this neighborhood, as well as over enlarged it to where it can take some of the flow of the Meriwether neighborhood. Not enough to cure their problem, but at least taking it in the right direction. In the southwest corner, there's another small detention pond there. We've diverted water away from that area and then have a small detention pond there. It's just extra to help flow to cut down and to slow down the flow to that neighborhood. So, and that's the majority of all. It's just a small site, and that's the majority of all the drainage there is. Those are the two major features.
From your professional opinion, your report here, you're not going to add any more to the drainage issues there, as far as you can tell?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
Anyone else have any more questions for Mr. Weekly? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak in favor of SR 47, 2026? Seeing no one, would anyone like to speak against SR 47, 2026? Come on up, sir. Name and address, please.
Hello, my name is Lance Oldorf from HydroWise Engineering. My address is 223 Town Center Parkway in Spring Hill, Tennessee. HydroWise Engineering was requested by Meriwether Farms to provide a technical review of the proposed engineering plans for the Northwest Drive Villas to determine if the new development could cause flooding or erosion issues for the Meriwether Farms. The analysis appears to be preliminary, with some standard engineering analysis components not included. Currently, as is, the design does not appear to reasonably provide enough information for a conclusive assessment that the analysis will not increase flooding or erosion control issues to the adjacent Meriwether Farms subdivision. In spirit of collaboration, a review letter was provided to Weekly Brothers, McKay Burchett, and David Smith. The specific concerns that I noted whenever I conducted the review is that the analysis calls out the use of an injection well through the though the use of which is no longer supported as a solution for stormwater by Montgomery County. It was the primary outfall structure of the northern detention pond were called out as a retention pond, but did not provide a conceptual site model that defines the geology, the hydrogeology, the fluid chemistry, and local infrastructure. Additionally, the analysis would benefit from providing an environmental discussion to address the pollution potential and permitting through TDEC for the adherence to the Clean Water Act for this injection well. The proposed grading plan calls out the proposed northern detention pond's top of berm at an elevation of 515 feet, which is 1 foot lower than the adjacent Meriwether Farms retention pond. The 100-year water surface elevation, as recorded in the plat at 516. This would allow stormwater to flow from the existing retention pond into their proposed pond. The stormwater could fill the proposed detention pond faster than currently designed and should be accounted for in the injection well design. Additionally, the location of the proposed detention pond appears to be a wetland. When on site, that would require additional considerations of permitting through TDEC. The proposed grading plan does not call out the proposed detention pond's emergency spillway. This design of the proposed detention ponds would benefit from including the emergency spillways in the grading of the berm to control the location and erosion potential of such an event, and is standard practice. The proposed grading plans and analysis would benefit from providing water quality treatment calculations to show compliance with the city and state regulations. The proposed grading plan would benefit from showing water quality buffers around existing water bodies and wetlands to show compliance with the city and state regulations. The proposed grading plan would benefit from delineating the stormwater detention facilities easement and providing sufficient area for ingress and egress to the facilities from a public street or road to show compliance with the city regulations. The proposed grading plan shows a swale running along the southern property line, turning north to drain into the proposed northern detention pond. The analysis would benefit from providing stormwater runoff and drainage swell capacity calculations to show the conveyance of the proposed stormwater runoff. Thank you for your time. My colleague Bradley Jones with Jones Structure is going to continue with the remainder of the concerns.
1 second. So what company were you with?
Hydro-Wise Engineering.
Spring Hill, Tennessee, you said?
Yes.
Okay.
Out of Spring Hill, Tennessee.
And where you're going with this conversation is executive, you don't agree with the other engineer's analysis as far, or you don't have enough information?
We do not have, I'm
Okay.
sorry, we do not have enough information to determine that the analysis adequately addresses the a concern that there would not be an increase in flooding or erosion concerns for the Meriwether Farms or the adjacent subdivisions. There's just additional information that is standard practice to include in a drainage report that was not included into this drainage report. And I'm trying to list those out as quickly as possible because we only had 3 minutes, so I'm sorry if that was a lot. But
Okay.
that was the main discussion.
Mr. Tender, you got a question?
Yeah, so Mr. Holder, right? Is your last-
Holdorf, yes, sir.
Holdorf?
Yes.
Can you spell that?
HOLDORF.
Thank you. What is your professional certification?
I am a professional engineer in the state of Tennessee,
Okay.
expertise in stormwater or environmental, which is
Okay. So you are a
subsurface.
licensed engineer.
I'm
And
a
you'd
professional
made
engineer.
mention that you'd sent emails to 2 engineering firms in the street department. How long ago was that?
Unfortunately, it was the end of last week.
Last
so
week, okay.
whenever I was brought on board and the analysis
So
was
may
conducted.
not have had time to respond to you yet. Okay.
Correct, yeah. And that was why we were asked to come forward and read these concerns into the
Would you
record.
mind after this meeting forwarding us a copy of that email?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, you can absolutely have a copy of that.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Any other questions, commissioners? All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate your time.
All right. Would anyone else like to speak against SR 47 2026? Come on up, sir. Name and address, please.
My name is Bradley Jones, 1303 PD Branch Road, Cottontown, Tennessee. I'm a professional civil engineer. Also, my colleague, we're retained by Meriwether Farms, HOA, to review the calculations, the site plans and such, as they have concerns over stormwater drainage of their areas. I think it's important, and the HOA wanted us to specifically say, they're not against the development. That's not what they're against. They are just wanting to be sure that everything is done and done properly. They've had drainage issues in the past, namely over the past 2 or 3 years, we've had a couple of 100-year storms. As engineers, we understand that, right? But we also understand that there has to be the proper amount of due diligence in the calculations and everything, and you only get one chance to get site plans right? So that's what we're after. I want to quickly, there were 12 points that was in the report that was listed. My colleague covered the first 7. I'm going to cover the last 4 or 5 very quickly. There's calculations of time of event, concentration of the stormwater event. It appears to be inadequate for the 5-minute currently used calculation. And I think I should say this before. My colleague had a phone conversation with Mr. Weekly, and I think Mr. Weekly, this was last Thursday or Friday, and I think Mr. Weekly conveyed to him, and he's here so he can tell me if I'm saying this wrong, conveyed to him that the report and the calculations were still preliminary, okay, that there are still more things to happen. That's why my colleague and our spirit of collaboration are saying here are things that we noticed they should be incorporated, they should be looked at, they should be checked to be sure that everything has been covered by what's in the code, by what TDEC has, et cetera, et cetera. The next point is there is a minor discrepancy in the area of the drainage to the northern detention pond. In one calculation, it has, I think, 0.75 acres, and another is 0.95 acres. So it's a minor discrepancy, but still a small discrepancy there. The analysis does not provide the detention pond outlet design nor schematics. Those are important aspects to be able to see within that. Also, the analysis does not report the existing and proposed stormwater peak discharge, which is also in a 100-year event, that is certainly an important aspect that needs to be addressed. And then the analysis doesn't provide an overall aerial imagery with the offset topography. So these are all just items that we believe need to be more fully addressed within the calculations, within the schematics, within the site plan. We want to be sure that, as my colleague mentioned, there are TDEC requirements that maybe need to be further looked into as it talks about wetlands and such. And so I know my time is up, so I would ask you to defer this until final calculations and drawings can be completed and reviewed by a third-party HOA professional engineering representatives, which we are.
Thank you, sir. Any questions, commissioners?
I do have one question. You keep mentioning TDEC.
Yes, sir.
So TDEC still would have to look at this.
Turn your mic on, thanks.
So TDEC would still have to look at this design prior to approval.
They would need to look at it if it is determined that that a certain portion of that area is considered wetlands. And from our visual observation, we think that it might be. We can't speak for TDEC.
Okay. But TDEC would still have to be involved in some form or fashion, correct?
Most likely.
For any kind of approval?
If it comes to wetlands, then they absolutely have to be involved.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else? Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, I have room for one more on SR 47 2026 if you would like to speak against. Come on up. Name and address, please.
Thank you. My name is Carrie Lovato. I am the city councilwoman for this area and also a resident of the Greenbrier neighborhood, which is one of the neighborhoods that is adjacent to this property. For a third time in a row, I am asking you all to defer this until January 2027. The city is currently conducting a stormwater study that will hopefully clear up some of the answers and the requirements that the engineer just spoke of. I did speak with Mr. Riggins today, and they are moving right along and are on track with that. Some things that I want to clear up. Last month when I came forward, I brought some aerial photos of the 100-year floods that we experienced last year. But that is not the only water issues that Meriwether specifically has. There is standing water frequently on those roads. So it's not really a matter of if those neighbors will flood above their living area, it's a matter of when, especially if this development is allowed. We're not against the development, we're just waiting. We want to wait until we have some final answers from that study. Another fib that was told last month is that the Greenbrier neighborhood doesn't have any kind of retention pond. That we do. We have an injection well. A couple of years ago, we had to have that area, that retention pond and that injection well maintained because of the runoff, it's starting to erode. Now that we've heard from third-party engineers, I will leave you with this question. If you all don't defer this and you pass this and those neighbors do flood above their living area more, who is supposed to be liable for that? Should it be the city? Should it be this RPC and the commission? Or should it be the engineers and the developer? Waiting until that study comes through will add a layer of protection for those entities. There are other areas in Ward 12 that we have seen where development comes in, they're promised that the runoff and that the water is not going to affect them, and then it does, and then the city is hands off. So we need to ask the hard questions of the street department right now because that is who currently is responsible for stormwater, but we really need to wait until the stormwater utility is stood up before passing, especially this area. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, commissioners? Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Weekly, would you like to rebut?
It's been a long day. Yeah, I did talk to their engineers, and they had some comments. Most of them are pretty minor. And you got to realize every area does things a little bit different. So what they're used to is not maybe what we're used to here. My plans were reviewed by the consultant for the street department, and then by the street department and approved. There was some talk about the injection well. Well, I have a permit from TDEC that I've already got to allow for that injection well. There was a lot of talk about wetlands and silt fence and all that stuff, and I already have a permit from TDEC on this site for that. My plans have been approved. And the other thing I wanted to talk about the he was talking about the calculations on the injection well. And this is, I'm reading from the City of Clarksville Stormwater Management Manual. It says that it talks about detention volume, and it be detained for at least 24 hours, but no more than 72. And it goes on to say that this requirement does not apply to sinkholes approved for detention. So there's not such a thing as that calculation that he's wanting. So, you know, I think it's been designed properly. I think it's been reviewed properly. I think that anytime you can have experts that disagree on the small items, but generally agree that this is a sound method. So I asked to go ahead. I think, what's our conditions on this, Brad?
So give me just 1 second. We still have the approval of grading and drainage and water quality plans by the city street department. My apologies. It still had the condition for approval of grading, drainage, and water quality plans by the city street department to include road and sidewalk improvements as required, and approval of all utility plans by the city engineer's office or utility district official.
So we still have the condition on it, so if there are some questions that the street department or y'all come up with for the street department to me, you still got it covered. So just ask, let's get over this hurdle. This is about the 4th month, and continue on down the road of the processes. So I'm asking for your vote. Any questions?
Any questions, commissioners? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to exit public hearing now. Mr. Smith, you want to come up from street department, kind of give us your insight on the situation?
Sure thing. So obviously this came through. This has been about the 4th month. This was approved without these revisions about 3 months or 3 years ago by this body with a much different look. This is kind of the high point for the neighborhood. It is already shedding in every direction, primarily to the northeast and southwest. It did go through the tiers of review. This is not approved. Okay, so when they said preliminary, the science behind that is Big Brother TDEC still has to review every part of this. There's a SWIP. There's so many more layers that have to come into this. And he's got some of the permits now in his hand with the wetland. There's so many checks and balances in this process that happen before this vote, or rather after typically. In this case, we've brought it advanced, and we've brought it as complete as we can give it to you without some of those approvals. So we've gone through dozens of cases these past months, and we've never had, we want to see a grading and drainage approval before we vote. So that's what you're getting, and that's why you have an incomplete, and that's why you have unanswered questions from a third-party engineer, because some of those boxes aren't checked yet. You know, Mr. Weekly or any of those folks are not going to submit to TDEC for those additional permits and those plans, and it's certainly not a SWIP if they're not approved to even disturb earth at this level if they're not approved. So again, cart before the horse a little bit on that, but this, if the third party, we had this again reviewed by not a third party, but a third party here locally. They reviewed the calculations. There are some best practices that were mentioned by the third party reviewer that was hired by the HOA that are not mandatory in this area, that are not in the stormwater manual. There are some things that TDEC requires that aren't listed yet or addressed yet, because they'll be addressed at a subsequent review by that office, by those folks. So of course, we're another for nor against this, but the calculations look good. We defer to the consultants often, and again, we're addressing this site, and this site seems to be doing pretty well with water. I understand Meriwether Farms has stormwater issues, and again, as last month I suggested, I'd invite you to look at that plat. It wasn't this body, as I was reminded, but it was this board, not these members, that approved the road being below the 100-year flood in that neighborhood. Those crawl spaces on those first 8-10 homes being within the 100-year flood. So I don't know we want to punish an adjacent developer for something that was approved next door. So,
Do you have plans to have your consultant review the HOA's engineers' reports?
I can have that review done, but I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I find I get 6 or 7 engineers in the room. They often have different opinions across the board.
Well, I guess I'm inquiring what your process is after this.
My process is met. We've had this reviewed by a third party. We've satisfied our MS4 permit requirements through TDEC. Of course, we can't issue a permit until their review and all of those things take place. But from a local standpoint, our stormwater manual, this is satisfied.
But it's preliminary.
It's preliminary because we're waiting on those other documents. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a lot more to this review.
Anybody else have any other questions? Okay. Thank you, sir.
You bet.
All right, we're out of public hearing, commissioners. SR 47, 2026.
I make a motion for approval. It's met the criteria to this extent. And they still have other means that they have to go through, but as of right now, they've met the criteria that was requested of them.
Second.
All right, we have a motion properly made second. Any more discussion? Yes, Commissioner?
I know we already have a motion on the floor, but could we actually, and I know the engineer will disagree with me, but I'd like to see us postpone this just one more month at least. I'd like to see at least what the other one said in comparison. That was a lot to rattle off for me to try and absorb in a 6-minute period of time. But I also have some questions in regard to our stormwater division that would be coming. So I would actually like to postpone for another month.
Well, we got a motion and a second, so he'd have to withdraw that. All right. I mean, we can take a vote on it and see what happens at that point, I guess. All right, so we have a motion and properly made second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Wait, which one are we voting on?
He made a motion in favor of SR 47, 2026.
Okay.
And he didn't withdraw it, so we got to vote on it, right? Okay, so we had how many votes in favor? 2 in favor. Any others? Are those against? 2, 3, 4.
You mean against it?
Against the motion.
Well, then it is.
Okay. All right, so SR 4726 fails. That motion fails. We're back to discussion here.
I make a motion to postpone until next month.
Okay, we have a motion for a 30-day deferral and a properly made second. All those in favor?
Wait, hold on a moment. Just any clarification for the engineers, the applicant, or the street department, what we want out of this next month?
I mean, like I said, I'd like to know more about the other. I would like to speak to Mr. Smith some more. I also want more information regarding the stormwater division that is being stood up. Several different things in aspect to that. I mean, without a doubt, I see that the other engineer that reviewed it has given information, and I trust in that too. But like I said, that was a lot of information that was shot at me in 6 minutes that I think I've probably started glazing in trying to absorb that. So I'd like another additional month to try and bring all that information together.
If I could, not that I have the right to, I'm going to add to that a little bit and say, street department employs their own third-party reviewer. They've received a copy of this email. I'd like to see a response to their 12 points that they mentioned, because again, I could not keep up writing down what they were saying. And we, as the planning commission, have not received a copy of that email too. So this was the first I heard that there was an email exchange between them. But I think it would be appropriate to get a response that this applies, this doesn't apply, or this will be met. You know, something that assures that those points that have been brought up by other state of Tennessee engineers are met.
And I think it also gives adequate time for Mr. Weekly to be able to give his permits that show he already has met some of
Sure.
those as well.
All right, so to pick back up, we had a motion and a second, and I think we were
deferral.
voting. So for a 30-day deferral, all those in favor of a 30-day deferral?
Aye.
All those opposed? 2 opposed. Okay, so it's been deferred. SR 47-2026 has been deferred 30 days.
Bad cold won't go away. All right. Commissioners, one more site plan to go over today and then a few other business items. SR 63, 2026, Mr. Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Tyndall. SR 63, applicant is Singletary Construction LLC. This property the site's called The Willows at Madison. It is a commercial retail multifamily. Property is located on the western frontage of Meadow Hill Lane. It's approximately 10.88 acres. Number of units is 174. Zone C2 within the city.
What page are you on?
Going to page 253, you'll see the aerial overview of the site. Page 254 has your site plan. 255 has the proposed landscape plan. Staff recommendation is for approval, subject to the 4 conditions listed. Approval of all grading, drainage, and water quality plans by the city street department to include road and sidewalk improvements as required. Approval of all utility plans by the city engineer's office and utility district official. Meet CDE requirements per CDE light bands design at full cost to the developer. And finally, replat of easement as shown required. If there's any questions for the staff, I'll be happy to try and answer those.
Seeing no questions, we'll open up public hearing on SR 63, 2026. Would anyone like to speak in favor?
Cal McKay, Burchett Company Engineering, 1545 Madison Street. I don't have much more to add to what Brad said. This is a platted C2 lot that's been around probably since 2010. One of the last parcels left in this approved subdivision. We meet all the criteria. Existing basin already constructed for this site or portion of this site. It's actually a mixed use in C2. I'll answer any questions.
You're already looking at me. Question, and I apologize, just for my clarification, the 174 units, that's just the units for the 2 3-story buildings and the 2 4-story units?
Correct.
I mean, buildings, then you've got the 2 commercial as well. Look to be strip or
Yeah,
something
but
essential.
with it being off the road, more likely office.
Office space that'll go in there. Okay, and then, and you'll just forgive me for trying to look at it, is there, because that's quite a lot of vehicles that be going on to, not Madison Street. It'd be a lot going on to Madison Street. But is there any type of, do we have any kind of improvements or entrances there to Meadow Hill, or is it just going to stay the small road
There was
that it
actually
is?
a traffic study done back when the subdivision and zoning was proposed, and had this site allocated as a shopping center, which generates more traffic than we are, and it was also before they widened 41A. We're updating the traffic study with new counts and actual counts. But if there's any improvements required, then I'm sure we'll have to do them. But I don't know how it's gonna be worse than it was.
Okay, and I know that just one thing that I've had people from the community talk about is just the amount of traffic it's going to add to Madison Street. That's especially for those that live right up the way and are already having difficulty turning left with the potential of more traffic. But, okay, thank you, Mr. McKay.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else like to speak in favor of SR 63, 2026? Would anyone like to speak against SR 63, 2026? All right, we're going to exit public hearing, commissioners. All right, we have a motion and properly made second for approval of SR 63, 2026. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? SR 63, 2026 passes.
All right, Commissioners, we do have some other business to go through. First item is the monthly P&L as well as the year-end P&L that's also there July through June 2026. Bottom line, expenses were down, but so was revenue slightly. So we did end the year pretty even compared to where we budgeted. Just both those numbers were down. That's kind of always our target, is to be a little over budgeted on expenses, maybe right on for revenue. So submit both the end of the year as well as July 2026 for your consideration.
So moved.
All right. We got a motion and a second on the profit and loss. Any discussion? All those in favor? All right. Any opposed? P&L passes.
All right. Next item is item B. It's annexation plan of service. This will require public hearing. This is for land west of Little Hope Road. As you'll remember, about 2 to 3 months ago, there was an annexation of almost 100 acres off Highway 76. This 5.5 acres or so was not ready as part of the closing. They did not want to delay getting moving on St. Thomas Hospital location. All this site is going to be is potentially the future county EMS, parking, some drainage, possibly a partial portion of the future city road that might go through this area. They're still working on the site. The most latest version I saw was the EMS and some parking up in this corner. So this really just cleans it up, rounds out that corner so that St. Thomas can continue to develop the site. I'll answer any questions, but we do need to have a public hearing before we send this on to City Council.
All right, seeing no questions from commission, would anyone like to speak in favor of A2 2026? Would anyone like to speak against A2 2026? All right, we're going to exit public hearing. Commissioners. All right, we got a motion properly made second on A2 2026. Seeing no one wanting to have any discussion, all those in favor? Any opposed? All right, A2 2026 passes, goes on to City Council.
Thank you. All right, if you'll go to page 37 under the other business, and there's a couple copies in front of you. If you want to look at a hard copy, it looks like this. This is the third part of that historic adoption. We did the H1 expansion. We held the public hearing on the chapters 9.3 and 9.5. This is the guidelines that will be future referenced in those guidelines. This will be the guide for developing downtown and in historic districts around the city. I really just want to call your attention to almost any of the pages. You'll see a blue box with an H or a yellow, orange circle with a U. This means whether or not it's applicable to the historic district or the urban design district. So I think it's super easy to understand now as you go through and you're either developing, rehabbing, or repairing a facility, whether it's parking, whether it's the roof construction, the eaves, the signage, it tells you what should be appropriate depending which zone you're in. There's also a nice chart near the back to follow along for the review process there. I think, and Mr. Clemens is upstairs, but you know, this will really make his job a lot easier. The current guidelines are much more vague. These are a lot more consistent. They're more clarity, and it covers a bigger gamut of things too, where in the past we had some gray area of what exactly should you do with an eave. Here it will describe that a lot more. So we ask you just to support the adoption of this. This was reviewed and approved by the Historic and the Common Design Review Boards yesterday, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. No public hearing needed on this.
Questions, commissioners? Not, we'll take a motion. All right, we have a motion and a properly made second on adoption of the historic and downtown guidelines. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, it is adopted.
Thank you. Oh, my tablet just crashed. Brad, where's the, thank you. It's gonna be way down there. It's the second time it's crashed today. I know it's even given up. course, the city, yeah, the fee schedule. Do you know what page that's on? I'm just trying to call their attention to it. There it is. Page 252, 253. We need to readopt the fee schedule, even though we did it last month. There was one small typo under rezoning cases where we had the 2 acres instead of 5 acres, so we're just correcting it to 5 acres. It left this weird thing that if someone applied for 2, 3, 4 acres, it really didn't have a fee. So we're just asking you to readopt the fee schedule to correct that mistake.
No public hearing, right?
No, sir.
All right, commissioners, questions, motions? All right, we have a motion properly made second on the corrected fee schedule. All those in favor? Any opposed? All right. Fee schedule passes.
Thank you. E and F, we can take that as one motion if you all want to. I did forward the CIPs to you last week for both the city and the county. If you have any questions or comments, we can forward them to the city or county. This is typically a formality that a CIP gets passed through the planning commission back to the city and county, and when they approve it, it opens up opportunities for grants and other funding. So we do this every year. The planning commission staff does not choose to make any comments this year on either CIP. As you can imagine, with both budgets, they've been pulled back pretty far. I will give the city some kudos. They've actually pushed it out to a 10-year CIP instead of 5, which I really like because it gives you a lot more clarity of. They used to put so many projects at that 5th year, and you knew they weren't going to do all these projects. So now it allows them to kind of phase out, and it gives you a bigger picture for the 10 years of where does something fall into that 6 to 10 year period. So we present those both to you. No public hearing needed, but we would need a motion to forward those back to the city or the county.
If everybody's good, we'll take up E and F together for the CIPs. In discussion or motions?
Make a motion.
All right, we got a motion properly made second on the CIPs for both the city and the county. All those in favor? Any opposed? All right, they pass.
All right, and if you go to your last 2 pages of the other business, we did get a request from the Clarksville Neighborhood Community Services. They have acquired a piece of property. It was donated to them on Jack Miller Boulevard. It's currently zoned C3. They wish to rezone it in the future to probably R4 and do a affordable housing project on it. It's just over an acre, but it's really encumbered. That's why the developer just is kind of like, you can have it. This is not something it's not unusual for us to do. We've done it for other things. We've done it for the industrial board, but it's unusual in that they're asking for a complete waiver of the zoning application fee as well as any future subdivision or site plan fee. I don't expect the site plan fee to be very much on this one, $400 to $800 probably in that range. The rezoning fee would be probably near $2,000. So total loss for us would be south of $3,000, but it is for an affordable project that the city is undertaking. So you do have the authority to do that, and we've asked them to do it a project at a time. They did want to have a blanket waiver of anything in the future, and I said, no, you should submit these one at a time so we can make sure what the type of project is. But the letter's there from the director of CNCS asking you to do that, and I think this is a good thing to support the city's affordable housing initiatives.
I'll make a motion to approve. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, waiver granted. Anyone like to address the commission? 3 minutes to speak. All right, seeing no one, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
Thank you all.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, guys.
Good.